I think that he's coming in to Paris with bad intentions. Hello everyone, welcome to the ELF Signing Centre. Now this is a very important episode. I've been waiting years to announce some of these signings, so I don't want to dilly-dally too much. Of course, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. We have a 24-hour. All the games that have been on last season in 2024 are being shown live on the ELF channel. So that's been great for me to revisit some of the old season. Of course, all of this has been brought to you by Euronics, the proud sponsor of the ELF. Let's get into these signings. I've been waiting years. Anyone who knows me knows I've been waiting years for this. Jaylon Henderson has joined the European League of Football. Not only that, but he has joined the Paris Musketeers, making them an immediate title contender and making him an immediate MVP frontrunner. If you are unaware, because I know some people will be, Jaylon Henderson is probably the best player to ever play in Europe who has not played in the ELF. He is spectacular for the quarterback position, former D1 athlete with Boise, which is already a good start. And then you add in this season. I'm going to read you out some of his stats. And bear in mind, this is not for his career. This was just last year. 91 touchdowns, 77 passing, 14 rushing, 5 interceptions, over 77% pass accuracy, and over 5,000 yards. That's mind-blowing. And then you look into the tape. And I noticed on the stats he was the least sacked quarterback in the league, at least one of them. Only took a couple sacks during the season. I thought maybe his offensive line is really good. Not really, to be completely honest. He's just that good at evading pressure. His pocket movement is unmatched. Honestly, phenomenal. His presence, his awareness, his vision upfield. He has a great arm. He can sling the ball 60, 70 yards off 1 foot like it's no problem. That's a phenom right there, honestly. I've been waiting for him to come into the league for years. I'm so excited to see what he can finally do now that he's taken that step up, because he's played in Japan as well, which is very competitive. And I think that he is very ready. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I think that he's coming in to Paris with bad intentions to win that championship for the Paris Musketeers. It is going to be one hell of an MVP race. You've got the former winners of the MVP. You've got Ben Holmes, who's going to go for an MVP. You've got Jaylon, who has just entered into the conversation. Many more I could just mention. Chad Jeffries is obviously going to be in that. Riley Hennessy is obviously going to be in that. Like, where do you go? If you pick in this one, it's very hard, because this is just such an in-depth class. You can read that as well, former NFL quarterback. This year's class is different, and I'm so excited to see it take the field. Now, I've been a little bit critical of the Enthroners in the past because they made some strange decisions. They're a very unorthodox team. If you don't know, they usually employ 2 defensive ends as Americans. You only get 2 Americans on either side of the ball, and they spend both of them in the trenches, which is very different. Usually teams will spend them at defensive back. You'll get the odd linebacker that comes in as well and plays in the center, but often it is 2 defensive backs. Not the case of the Enthroners. They've got Emmit Gooden, former Tennessee defensive tackle, 4-star player coming out of high school. If you remember, he was on Last Chance U. You might remember the name. Then Malik Crenshaw played last season, got hurt, played with a club on his hand, very Jason Pierre-Paul for a little while. But both of these guys are going to have their work cut out for them, because they're going to have to be putting a lot of work in for this defense in order to create the turnovers that I think they want to. They want to rush the quarterback. They want to cause them to throw some difficult throws. And the main cornerback for that is going to be Miles Butt. They're expecting him to be the number 1 guy for them. They lost Rodion Enrique. That's a massive loss for them. Probably the best ball-playing European defensive back, honestly. Fantastic. They lost him. They bring in Miles, who is a great athlete, very Tony Anderson-esque in his body type. He's big, he's long. He is a physical defensive back, but he's just injured a lot, and that's a big problem. Availability is the best ability, and that's a coaching cliche, but it's very true. And then Goran Zek returns from retirement. ELF legend, multiple-time All-Star, probably the best Serbian player to ever grace the game. He's back at safety. It's a big move. Next to him, another safety in Alexander Borkovic. He is a bit more of a box type physical linebacker, a ton of tackles over his 2 seasons in Prague. That's going to be an interesting dichotomy. The 3 of them in that core, you've got Zek, who's going to be, I'm assuming they're going to play 3 high. You can have Alexander more in the box as a nickel type. That's what he did with Prague. And then Miles, I'm assuming as well, more press coverage style while they wait for this pass rush to come home. That's what I'm expecting from the Enthroners. Will it work? I guess we'll find out. And then they've got Brock Duman, a quarterback. They just announced it with a beautiful visual, I must say. It's very cool. They've just announced him from Louisville, quarterback. I'm still a little bit wary, if I'm going to be honest. His completion percentage is not great, about 55%. It's not brilliant. He doesn't have a ton of zip on his balls, and I think that is a concern. You're going to have to get that ball out quick because as of now, they have zero investment with Europeans on the offensive line, and that's a big concern. They want Brock to be stood up. Last season, they had a lot of trouble with that. They've had troubles with that every single season in the ELF. I think they should probably have invested 4 E's, at least, on the offensive line. But they're going to go for it. They're an unorthodox team, and we'll see if it works very, very soon. Terion Robinson is back in the European League of Football, and if you don't know why, I'm really excited to see him again. We've had glimpses of him over the years. He finished in Mexico last season, came in with the Mercenaries midway through the year, and he just shows that he's such a 3-level threat. If you don't know what I mean by that, short, intermediate, deep routes, he has all of them. He's a fantastic route runner. He's a great scorer. He has great hands. He's physical enough on routes. He doesn't really get pushed off by press coverage. He is one of the most elite receivers that people don't really talk about because he's been kind of in and out of the ELF with mid-season signings rather than signing with a full season, which now he is for the Hamburg Sea Devils. I'm really excited. I think this is a great move. Really, really happy with what they've done with this one. Glad to see him back. One of the big debates going into this season was the Nordic Storm and how good is their homegrown talent. Can it compete with the top teams in the ELF? And I'm here to say yes, it can. In particular, I want to look at their receiver core today. They've just announced a couple new signings that we'll get into. And if you remember correctly, they have Denmark and Sweden as their 2 homegrown territories. And I'm going to start with the Danes. Jacob Green spent a year in America, big, deep threat, lots of ball tracking ability, and I think that he's going to be a real impact player. Next to him, you've got Simon Fons, former Potsdam Royal, caught a ton of passes over the last couple of years. Think of him a lot like Harlan Quofi. He's a great blocker on the outside. He has physical hands. He's good over the middle type of plays as well as on the sidelines. In addition to that, you have the Swedish players. Now, this is some more guys that you're going to recognize. Theo Landstrom is back in the European League of Football. If you remember, he was such a good player on the Barcelona Dragons. Really broke out as another sideline deep threat. And I know you're going to say, there's a lot of those at the moment. Stay with me. He is a great player. He needs to improve on his consistency with his hands. That was one thing that was kind of flashing up in Barcelona. Ends the season there, goes to Hamburg Sea Devils, unfortunately picks up an injury, so isn't able to play the full season. Hopefully, he's fully rehabbed and able to get back into it. Now, we do have all those guys playing the outside. Who's going to be playing in the middle? That is Edvin's territory. Almeida is an excellent slot receiver for this team. He's improved so much after the last couple of seasons. One of the best receivers that Sweden has made in the last few years. He's quick, he's shifty, he's great off the line. He's a great route runner. He's physical. Like all of the things I've just attributed to other guys, add in some more athleticism, add in some more speed. I think he's going to be the leading homegrown receiver. He might even be one of the leading receivers, honestly, that's coming into this season. I think he's going to be fantastic. Loads of depth, loads of ability, a good mix of skill sets, and I think Jadrian Clark is going to have a lot of fun with these receivers. I'm going to start this segment bold. The best cornerback, in my opinion, has just re-signed Mitch Fettig. I have him pipped as probably the defensive player of the year this year. I think that he's in for a big, big year. And considering he's already a 2-time All-Star, and he's also got 9 interceptions in his ELF career, it's quite a step up, and he is excellent. phenomenal in the run, extremely physical on routes. He knifes through pretty much everything. He's always going for the ball. He has great hands, great high pointing, elite ultra instincts. And I think that he is the best corner. I think you'd struggle to find anyone that would disagree with that. There might be a few names people would throw around, but he is the heartbeat of the Surge defense, I feel. And if they wanted to get back into the semi-finals, they needed him. He's a massive part of that team. A triple plus signing. I couldn't give this one enough praise. It's that good. He is that elite. And with that, this episode of the ELF Science Center has been complete. I am so ready for some of these signs to come into the ELF. I know you guys are going to really enjoy watching them play. I hope you can see how excited I am to watch them play. But having said all that, like, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Like I said at the beginning, live stream showing all the games for 2024 just to get you caught up to speed. And I think it's going to be a really amazing season. Thank you and goodbye.